Before any machine moves, metal must take shape. It has to hold geometry with almost impossible precision.
精度是比我们人的头发还要更细。
In Taiwan, that margin has been pushed for decades, chasing the last micron and shaping mother machines. Intelligent tools that build what comes next.
它是幕后整个工业发展很重要的一环。
This is the hidden genesis of industry, the story of those who hold that precision in their hands, making sure every cut, every wear, moves the world one step closer to perfect. Inside this electric vehicle plant, the assembly runs itself. Every 50 seconds, a battery pack rises to meet the chassis, giving the car its power source. The alignment must be perfect. A hair's width off, and safety is at risk. However, that accuracy starts long before this line, on a precision instrument built far away. Here, the objective changes. They are not assembling the cars, but engineering the very tools that give them life. With all this high tech on the floor, it's not obvious that one of its most important guardians of accuracy works with something very simple. A scraper. And a pair of hands stained with ink and oil.
我来公司做折耳差不多做25年，厂花师傅都是这样一刀一刀铲出来的，体格方面都是要求比较强壮，你的身体要能够承受那个负荷。
Day after day, Cai Zhiyang repeats the same motion close to 20,000 times, pushing his scraper across the metal to carve a pattern of tiny scales, about 24 little squares in every inch. It looks decorative, but that's not the point. This is one of the most critical steps in building a machine tool. Even after precision machining, a metal surface is still a landscape of microscopic peaks and waves. If that surface is used as a slideway, the weight of the machine rests on just a few high spots. Over time, those spots wear down, and the whole machine slowly drifts out of accuracy.
蓝丹它是一种涂料，它是让你在磨合的时候能够显现出来哪边高点哪边低点，高点我们再下去做铲花的动作。
With a tungsten carbide scraper, he slowly trades those blue patches for evenly spaced dots and tiny pockets.
你的角度不一定都是那个角度，有时候要高一点，有时候要低一点，有一个铲的节奏性，对身体再去配合，这个没有办法用说的，所以没有办法用机械取代的原因也是这样。
How smoothly the machine runs, pass or fail, comes down to his touch. At the very top of the manufacturing chain sit the machine tools, known in the industry as mother machines. They turn raw metal into the precise shapes everything else depends on. To achieve this, the metal must be attacked in different ways. Turning spins the work and cuts it perfectly round. Milling moves the cutter around the part to form flats, slots, and complex shapes. And grinding makes the final pass with an abrasive wheel, tightening accuracy and smoothing the surface into the micron range. From jet engine parts and surgical tools to semiconductor modules and the metal shells of phones and laptops. Different cutting methods, different machines. But almost every industrial product can trace its first precise shape back here. On the world's maps, Taiwan is the island of chips. But if you leave the fabs behind and head into the middle of the island, another kind of powerhouse comes into view.
台湾工具机产业啊，因为我们有强大的一个供应链和卫星体系。那在台东地区，我们有所谓的黄金60公里，那你可以找到所有工具机产业的供应商和零组件。因为这样子，所以我们可以快速的来反映市场的需求。
This golden valley of Taiwanese machine tools generates close to $3 billion in output every year. The highest concentration of precision machinery makers anywhere in the world. At its center is Victor Taichung, a 70-year-old name in machine tools, and yet the home of Taiwan's first factory, built entirely on an Industry 4.0 blueprint.
过去大家对于工具机就黑手产业嘛，就是又黑又脏嘛，都是这种印象。但现在我们打造这个智慧工厂出来就不一样了。大家你们进到这个工厂来，就觉得说这个工厂就像图书馆，就像公园嘛，完全不像一家这个工厂一样。
Here, they're quietly rewriting what a machine tool factory can be.
我们手机过去只有单能，接听电话嘛，现在我们手机已经变成把很多的功能都整合在一部手机里面。但事实上，这个智慧机械的发展也是像我们的手机一样，我们现在已经把很多的功能性的东西都整合在一部机器里面，变成一个智慧机械的一个整合。
But intelligence here isn't just found in the final machine. It is woven into the very process of its creation. This is Industry 4.0 in action. Across the floor, fully autonomous lines take over, producing nearly 200 different components without a single pause. Overseeing this complexity is the command center on the far side of the facility. Here, the factory's pulse is visible at a glance, distilling the entire operation into real-time insight. If any machine starts to run heavy or behave oddly, it lights up immediately. The system ties directly into smart scheduling and logistics, reshuffling jobs and rewriting AGV routes before the problem spreads. For this team, those numbers aren't pretty dashboards. They're the proof that brutal tolerances will be hit and that machines will still leave the dock on schedule. Accuracy is earned long before it shows up on a screen. It starts in the foundry, where the bases are poured, moves to the machining and assembly plant, where parts are cut, ground, and brought together, continues to the sheet metal shop, where the skins are formed and painted, before ending at final test and sign-off. 3 factories, 1 vertically integrated chain. It all starts with 1500-degree heat. A molten mix of steel and alloy is about to be poured into the backbone of a machine tool.
刚性、寿命、精度，这是机械最重要的3大3大目的。我们铸件一用，机器一用就10年、20年、30年。那如果 guarantee 保证说我们的客人在使用这几十年里面，我使用的这些基础架构不会变形，所以说铸件它是最重要的。
While the metal is still liquid, it's treated like a recipe. The mix is adjusted again and again until it hits a very specific balance. Only then is that molten iron trusted to flow into sand molds designed for each machine model. After nearly 2 days of slow, controlled cooling, the mold is broken open and the bed casting emerges. The base that will carry the whole machine and every cutting force for decades. Unwanted bumps are knocked off. Every pass has to be shallow and precise. Cleaning the casting without cutting into its strength, and keeping the mounting faces close enough for the next round of machining. Then, a coat of anti-rust primer seals the iron against moisture. Now, this 10-ton casting is ready to leave the foundry behind and step into a world measured in microns. First, this multi-million-dollar 5-axis giant is about to bring discipline to this rough block of cast iron. A massive carbide cutter spins up and skims a first reference plane across the casting, holding it flat to within microns. That single surface becomes 0, the origin of the machine's internal map. From there, neighboring faces and locating bores are cut in sequence, each one tied back to that same reference.
它也可以一次加工好几个面，那这样子的话有什么好处？就可以减少它的累积误差。以前我们如果加工的话，它整个加工一个面，那你加工这片面怎么办？啊，你要再翻过来，你翻过来就会精度有时候就要从胶会跑掉了。就是我们如果可以的话，一次性的把它同时加工好几个面或者好几个斜面，啊，这个样子部分你刚刚讲的那些累积误差就不会存在。
When the spindle winds down, the casting has crossed a line. From raw iron to the reference everyone else has to trust. From here on, the machine's geometry will be built on what's been set today. Five centuries ago, before precision engineering had a name, Leonardo da Vinci was already sketching it. In his notebooks, rough ideas of lathes and boring machines circle in the margins. Early hints of a simple but radical wish. Let a machine, not a hand, repeat accuracy again and again. Those lines on paper stayed dreams until the Industrial Revolution hitched them to steam. The first machine tools ran on pistons and belts, turning sketches into iron. By the jet age, hand wheels couldn't keep up. Aerospace parts forced machines to learn numbers. Toolpaths became exact coordinates. Computer numerical control, known as CNC, took over the motions. And five-direction cutting, tilting, and rotating the tool pushed errors into the micron range. Today, a single multitasking machine hides more than 5,000 parts under its skin, all expected to move in perfect step. Every new function adds another layer of design and another chain of variables the factory has to keep on a tight leash.
我在台中金机入厂到现在33年了哈。那从以前的一个比较传统的一个工具机厂，也就是黑手业，转变到现在这个智慧化的工厂，其实感触很深了哈。
Huang Min Zhang takes complex machine designs and resolves them into a clean, repeatable rhythm on the line. For him, controlling quality means one thing. The most critical variables, the key components, must stay in their own hands. And the first thing they insist on making is the heart of the machine. This is the pickiest room on the factory map. Temperature locked, air scrubbed, dust hunted down before it ever reaches metal. This is where the spindle, the machine's rotating heart, comes together.
主轴就是一部机台的一个旋转轴啊，借由夹持刀具或者是弓箭，然后经过旋转。 来实现加工点的一个切削，那所以说它的稳定性是非常的重要的。
Even a tiny temperature drift or a speck of dust is enough to throw that heart out of balance.
主轴的零件就是钢或者是铸铁件哈，那恒温能够确保预压值的稳定，减少这个温差。 变异的造成的一个精度异常，使这个轴承能够达到理想的刚性，还有低噪音的运转。
Bearings are eased carefully onto the shaft. To hit a tolerance of 10 microns, about a tenth of a human hair, the technician reads the dial indicator like a heartbeat monitor. When the needle barely stirs, it means this spindle will hold its balance even at tens of thousands of revolutions a minute. Only then does it earn its place inside the spindle head. The thick housing does more than shield it. It's the joint that lets this precise heart bolt cleanly into the rest of the machine's body. Once the heart is in place, the machine still needs bones and muscle, the system that lets it actually move. For that, everything starts with these linear rails. Think of them as the machine's runway. The straighter this rack, the smoother and more accurate the saddle will glide for the rest of its life.
两条线轨，它的平行度要维持在一条内。如果说 差异太大，就会造成整个结合上去之后，精度超出我们的设定的公差。
Between the rails sits a ball screw. Think of it as a bearing wrapped around a thread. Inside the nut, steel balls loop through the helical grooves, so the motor's rotation rolls rather than slides, turning spin into precise forward and back travel. Each turn moves the stage a fixed amount. Within a multitasking machining center, 3 sets of rails and ball screws work together like a built-in guidance system. X sets left and right. Y pushes in and out. Z controls depth. When they move as one, the cutter can trace out complex shapes, turning an ordinary metal block into a precise industrial part. At the world's biggest bike races, Taiwan rolls with the peloton hidden in the wheels. Over 80% of pro-level drivetrain parts are born on this island, driving every sprint and climb. In Taichung, one bike factory is now in its own race against the clock. They've been handed a rush order from France, a batch of race-grade geared bikes built and shipped within a hard deadline. The timeline has a built-in weak spot. One crucial hub part has to bounce between 2 factories before it's finished, turning a single component into a long, fragile chain.
花鼓里面的零件棘轮座，原本的方式就是车床车完，那委外加工去滚齿，因为厂商那边没有办法提早的话，我们就会变成交期又 delay 了。客户来不及的话，会要求我们空运出货，然后公司会有巨额的损失。
What they need now is a game changer. One machine that brings the whole job back under one roof. 60 kilometers away, the countdown lands squarely on Huang's shoulders at Victor Taichung.
以往我们的生产线需要问到进度，都要打电话来现场去问说进度到哪边，什么时候可以出货。现在根本不用，直接在战情室的一个平台上面就可以看得到每一部机台现在的进度到哪边，什么时候可以出货都可以一目了然。那这个是要确保这个目标要达成。
The time for theory is over. Now, the design enters the physical world. Assembly starts with the work table, the surface that will carry fixtures and parts smoothly along the machine's travel. Next, the 800-kilogram spindle head is locked onto the Z-axis slide, followed by the turret, the central hub designed to switch multiple functional drills. With the rigid iron core complete, it is time for the final enclosure. Panels of 1.5 millimeter cold-rolled steel, pre-treated for corrosion, are bolted around the base. They form a closed workspace for precision equipment, keeping out dust, stabilizing temperature, and dampening vibration. When the last screw goes in, a new mill turn center, lathe and mill in one, comes to life. Ready to give the bike factory a single clean answer to its hub-making bottleneck.
整批做完的话，以现在来讲， 我们使用车铣复合机下去加工，1 piece 的话应该在3分多钟，效率几乎提升了1倍。当然，大家都很开心了，因为我们可以缩短我们的对厂商的交期。对，那不像以往拖那么长，也需要那么多机台及人力投入那么多人力。那我现在一台机台的话，我只要投入1个人力放，就去加工，我还可以1人多机。
3 weeks later, the payoff hits the road in Europe. Under the power of pro riders, the new Taiwan-built hubs prove themselves immediately. Instant engagement, a smoother roll, and a line that holds tight even in crosswinds. They might seem like minor details, but when chasing seconds, they mean everything.
应用的范围再怎么样的广泛，我想还是要回归到原点。你这个原点的时候，你如何把你的基础工业把它做好，这样子的话是一切的根本。
智慧的公积金就好像我们的家庭的一个成员一样，它跟我们的人的24小时都能够很密切的合作在一起，所以它也是变成一个有温度的机器了，不是像过去那么冷冰冰的，它也能够变成我们的，就像好像我们的一个家族一样。
The origin of precision is disarmingly simple. Heat, metal, and a stubborn refusal to accept good enough. In this smart factory, that same instinct speaks in code and sensors. But one truth remains unchanged. Machine tools never take center stage. They are the bedrock of industry. From Taiwan's Golden Valley to production lines worldwide, every part reborn under their cutters ensures the world's motion runs forward on a true line.